Adam. Where's
We're
Caleb?
live.
Oh, we're live. Oh, there's Caleb. What's up? Is
All right, what's up, everybody? So I probably
this a
should.
live thing?
It is live. I should have announced to the team that we were live, so that's my bad.
That's all right. You did announce it. You literally said we're live.
We're live.
It's like the
now.
gig, man. It's like when the needle drops.
We're just going. We're just going. What's going on, Peter?
Not much, man. This is our first ever. No, well, yeah, this is our first ever transatlantic Q&A. I know we've done some transatlantic. You'll hear it's before, I believe.
We have done some transatlantic like recordings of the podcast, but this might be our very first. You'll hear it live transatlantic. I'm not sure about that, but at least for like, doing a Q&A, this will be our first one. So we just need some cues, and we'll bring the
Well, first we want to know: how's everybody doing? Is anybody seeing us? Is this thing happening?
Are we live right now?
Are we on a different link than we originally were, Caleb? What's up, Caleb? Everybody, this is Caleb.
Yeah, the answer is yes. You're on a different link.
Oh, well then nobody's here. We're just talking to each other then.
Sam and Ian are corralling everyone.
It seems like
All
Sam
right.
and Ian are corralling everybody, and I guess you probably heard
Okay.
that. Oh no, we got.
All right. So maybe drop a link to this in the description of the one that we've been sending everybody to all day. So there's always that.
No.
Well, then what's up, Juan? What's up, Henry? Maximilian. I was going to introduce you guys to Caleb, but he's gone already. He'll be back though.
I'm back.
There he is.
Hi,
See,
everybody.
I didn't mean for you to come back that quick, but Caleb's our brand new YouTube. You'll hear it producer and Open Studio team member. And,
Yeah, you know
this guy over here. You guys know him.
Where am I? Which side am I on? There you go.
Let's
That
see.
side. You know my
I'm
favorite
pointing
about-
across the Atlantic. So I'm going out to sea.
The best part about producer Caleb is that he chose as his background our marketing funnel. Thanks, Caleb.
Nice. So we're going to vamp here for a minute, which is something that we can talk about, and folks may have a question about, Adam, but we won't go into that until folks come over. What's up, Colleen? What's up, David? Simon. Oh, we got some nice folks here. Chris. We got some funny and nice folks. Wait, Alvin's saying hello from Denmark. Well, this is one of the few times I can say hello from Denmark because I am in Denmark as well.
Are you in Copenhagen?
I'm in. Well, I thought I was in Copenhagen, but now that you've corrected me on that, yes, I am in Copenhagen. I'm in Copenhagen. I got to tell you, this city is the most beautiful, adorable, livable, safe, delightful, swinging. Man, let's talk about some of the great musicians that have lived here and that are from here. A real, one of the jazz capitals of the world for sure. And just a wonderful, delightful place. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here. We're playing tomorrow, and we just got here. We're on the 5th day of the tour, and I love this town. I was out early. It was like 48 degrees and sunny. People were out. The COVID restrictions have been lifted for 2 days. COVID is in the air and spring is in the air. No, COVID is not in the air, but spring is in the air at least. It's really
Pretty
nice
much
here.
like here, man. We were talking earlier, and you were saying the COVID restrictions are lifted there, but they're pretty much here too. Like just in the last 2 days, a lot of places are. So
Cool.
yeah,
Cool.
not much different anymore. So that's great, man.
Maximilian's saying I should visit Den Haag. I love Den Haag. We're the next stop day after tomorrow is Amsterdam, which is of course close, about an hour from Den Haag.
So
Chip's saying he's a new guy, but I've been watching a bunch of the old Open Studio YouTube stuff. Well, welcome, Chip. Welcome to our safe, jazzy place. Is that a good way to explain it, Adam?
I think so. It is both safe and appropriately jazzy. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, Chip.
That's
Let me
right.
know if you have any questions about anything. And if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the chat there because this is a Q&A.
That's right. That's right.
Caleb's going to be actively keeping track of questions. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you can drop them now or you can drop them as we go. But the thing is, we got a hello from Cologne, Germany. I have a big, exciting announcement about Germany, but I don't want to I don't want to. We're not going to do it today. We'll do it in a couple of weeks when I get back. Okay.
Are we okay? Are we moving headquarters to Germany? Is that what's going on?
We are not, but we have a number of beloved members of the community in Germany.
We do. We have a disproportionate amount of German folks who are both YouTube subscribers and members. It's pretty awesome.
That's right. That's right.
They represent.
Yeah, I'm going to be somewhere around there in a couple days. But I'm kind of just taking everything one day at a time, trying to soak it all in as this tour goes along. So, it's all good. It's all good.
Here we go. First question.
Favorite kind of cheese? Go ahead. Why don't you take that one, Adam? Because yours is going to be probably.
I like a manchego. It's fairly plain. It's fairly basic, but it's solid. It can be done and you can enjoy it just on its own or in several different ways. Now you're plant-based, Peter. So
I'm plant-based, but I have been enjoying the plant-based cheeses, which are occasionally delightful. Actually, there's a Trader Joe's. What do you call it? Yeah, cream cheese, vegan cream cheese, which is really good. I don't eat a lot because it's not super healthy. It's not very clean, but it tastes like cream cheese, like on a bagel. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to bring it around the Upper West Side of New York City. They might sneer at it, but for me, it's not bad at all. Good. We got some good questions. We're gonna wait just a minute as what do you call it, Adam? The room fills up.
We're gonna let the room fill up. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a nice.
And I got a couple questions for you as well.
I have some questions for you, buddy. First.
Question.
Good. Tell the people who you're on the road with. Who are you on the road with?
Okay, so I'm on the road with Christian McBride and his band called Inside Straight, which is a ensemble that he announced on the gig the other night. I believe we were in Budapest, and he said that this is his longest running band of his career, which is I was very surprised by that and amazed and honored.
That makes sense, though. Think about it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels like, you know what it is? Like the band is so fresh. I feel like we just started, and he was talking about like 14, 15 years that it's been going on. And it's been a little bit on and off, although we've always done like the Village Vanguard every December. We've done that, except we missed 2020. 2020? Yeah, we only missed 1 year because of the pandemic. But, everyone's always doing different things. It's the general structure of the group is Christian McBride on bass, Carl Allen on drums, Steve Wilson on saxophone, and Warren Wolf, who's kind of the linchpin of the group because, as Christian says, it was the reason that he first put the group together with the instrumentation that it is with vibes and saxophone, which is kind of a unique thing on the front line. But it was after he met Warren as a real young student, actually, that he had this idea. As soon as he heard Warren, he's like, oh, man. I don't have any use for a vibraphonist, but now I do. I want to put a band together. So he kind of planted the seeds. So we're super grateful to Warren for that. And it's just a pleasure, playing with this group. And Jaleel Shaw is actually subbing for Steve Wilson this tour. Jaleel's an amazing saxophonist that we're really lucky to have step in more than ably, wonderfully. And it's been an interesting tour because we've done like 5 gigs already. We've been here for 5 days. We've played every night until tonight. This is like our first night off. We traveled this morning from Helsinki. So it's just been like travel, play. But it's been great. And it's kind of thrown me back into the European touring fold in a much more abrupt and violent way than I would have expected. But it's good because you just kind of go on muscle memory, and so it's like everything's kind of back to normal in a lot of ways. The audiences are there. We've had some really wonderful audiences. Met some open studio folks, and you'll hear fans at every stop so far, which has been amazing. I mean, I'm like, Budapest came strong. Helsinki, we had some members that actually pushed their way all the way into the dressing room last night, which was awesome because you guys are always welcome. And then
isn't it nuts to see all these open studio folks? Because I've been doing a little bit of traveling myself. We went to New York for a very fun project a couple weeks ago, and then I played this gig in Florida in St. Pete. You ever been to St. Pete, Pete? It's great.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I'm not a fan, to tell you the truth, but we'll talk about that on another.
Okay, we can talk about it. But anyway, I met in St. Petersburg. I met a bunch of young musicians. including this really awesome pianist named John O'Leary, who's an Open Studio member and fan, and we hung out and talked Open Studio. And it's awesome to like start traveling again, and things are opening up, and we get to talk to people, and they know like, oh man, that one You'll Hear It episode, or that Jeffrey Keyser video, or whatever it is. It's so cool, man.
Right. And you know what, Adam? I think to all those times, I mean, we've been doing it going on 4 years now, right?
Yeah.
The podcast. I mean, think about all those times we're just in there in the pods, the pod suite, the various incarnations of it. And we're like, it's such a solitary thing. I mean, together, you and I, but it's like we're just sort of recording this stuff. We're really having a very intimate conversation about music a lot of times, if not always. And so it can feel very much a one-way type of thing. So when we get the feedback, it's such a special thing, I think, you know, for me, and I know for you too, Adam. So we appreciate you guys so much. I mean, you know, Adam and I would be sitting around shooting the shit about music anyway, but we go to, you know, a fair amount of effort to like record it accurately and beautifully and all that. So it's like when we get to kind of hear back and connect the circle, the community, it's a very special thing. So thank you guys. And I mean, you know, going to some of these countries where, well, I mean, last night in Finland, like there, you know, Finland's a very special place because, first of all, I mean, I've been to some places with some beautiful people, but everybody was, the guys, the gals, the theys, everybody is just attractive and tall. I mean, tall AF. Like they got it going on up in Finland. I don't know why the population hasn't grown above the 5.5 million that it is, because I mean, they just seem to really have everything together there. But they speak really good English, but we go to some other places that are not as, you know, English forward, and to hear folks that listen to the podcast and have to struggle through our, at times, improper various, you know, Central Corridor, U City bad English and your South Side, High Ridge bad English, you know, the fact that folks suffer through that and listen to us makes it even more special.
It's called Anglish where I'm from. But Peter, I'm just kidding.
We can barely understand each other.
No, dude, everybody should have been on Soundcheck. That was hilarious. Caleb, why don't you start throwing up some questions, man? See if you can maybe start from the top here and see if we can go in chronological order. Maybe take some of these beautiful people's questions. Yeah,
and you can do comments too. And you know, don't be afraid, Caleb, to throw some softballs. It's all good. We'll wait for the hard balls later.
You're figuring it out, Caleb. If you hover over the comments in the chat.
This is a training session.
Look at our producer here. There we go.
There. Oh, Lucas. We know Lucas. What's up, Lucas?
Hey, what's up, Lucas? Lucas says, you have been covering Barry Harris's comping techniques recently? Have you also been working on his improv techniques? If so, could you share your thoughts? So I'll tell you this, Lucas. I actually did a course on some of the Barry Harris stuff. Check this out, Pete. Bam. I did a course on the most basic things that Barry talks about, which is, Lucas, if you don't know that Peter's bailing, he's like, I don't want to hear this.
No. I'm here. I'm attending to some important business. I'll be right back.
No. Lucas, if you check it out, the major here, I'm gonna. Sorry, Peter, you're gonna be back, but just for now. So, if you major scale, right? Thirds. Right? Triads. Major 7 chords, or seventh chords, I should say. Right? Knowing your major scale in all of those, and then 1 or 2 other things, adding a half step below things like thirds or triads. Or 7th chords. That kind of thing, Lucas, is what I think everybody should start with the Barry Harris stuff. Like we have Chris Parks, We have Chris Parks, Peter, at Open Studio Pro twice a week. He thinks a lot of Barry's more advanced techniques, but I would start there if you don't know already, Lucas. Those basic things, like that's a few months worth of practice, and they will get you to be playing so much more organically and naturally than you think you can. It's pretty incredible. Actually.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Adam Maness and Chris Parks. You're talking about two of the true experts on funneling the knowledge of the great Barry Harris, the late great Barry Harris's information out today. So the only thing I would add is that we always want to think about taking one strong foundational concept, and it doesn't have like what Adam just said, this half step, concept of starting below, and trying to apply that to as many different situations as possible, as opposed to taking as many different concepts and apply them to many different situations. The way to become exponentially better is not to take two different things and try to make this big multi-graph. It's to take one thing, and look, that one thing doesn't even have to be like, don't waste your time trying to figure out, like, with, what is it, analysis paralysis, trying to figure out if it's the hippest or the best or most important. It's how you do it. It's how you bring it into the language, into your story. So there is no, is it hipper to start a half step below or half step above? Is it hipper to do it? It doesn't matter. You take one thing and make that your hip thing and apply that to as many different things as you can. That's when we talk about 1 inch wide and a mile deep. That's when you can really start making some progress, and the kind of impact on your playing that will both make you a better player, but personalize your story through your improvisation in a way that's really quicker and deeper than any other way to do it, I believe.
No, it's great stuff, Peter. And someone was asking here, I saw someone comment about Bill Evans, but that's like a famous Bill Evans quote about what to practice. Like, what do you practice? And he would say, I practice the minimum. Not meaning like I don't practice, because he practiced all the time, but just the minimum amount of material. So spending time with a little concept, like a half step below, right? That can be huge for opening up very big things in your playing.
Right. And then the thing is, like, once you start taking that concept through a number of different situations, different phrases, different keys, different tunes, different tempos, different rhythms, different times of the day, different accompaniment in your left hand, like, you start to learn and internalize and lock in that concept in such a deep way that it has the potential to have that impact on your playing. Plus, you're training your ear in a very methodical and organic way when you apply one concept. It's kind of like if you're taking one word and you really want to learn it, don't learn a word and another and then jump to another. It's like, learn that one word and then take it through as an adverb. Is it a verb also? Can you use it in a long sentence? Can you use it in a short sentence or whatever? It's like, let's go against what the world tells us now, where it's like information. Oh, jumping around. No, let's focus it on one thing and make it beautiful and make it deep and master it. So sorry, did I get a little dogmatic there?
Oh, you're preaching to the choir, but I love it. So Josh says, hey, Adam, is there any reason? So the major scale course is the course that we made that deals with exactly this. We go through all of those Barry Harris major scale things. And Josh says, hey, Adam, is there any reason for the major scale course's order to be chromatic, to be the chromatic scale, like first C, then D flat? So it's interesting, Josh, because I used to do mostly practicing in the perfect in fourths, right? Going through the circle of fourths, until I met Mr. Peter Martin here, who is a big proponent of chromatic practicing of these things. And I've actually really enjoyed doing more of that. I still do both, actually, when I want to take a concept through, because I do think that circle of fourths, or even sometimes fifths, is a great way to sort of get similar regions, but you're jumping around geographically on the keyboard. You know what I mean? But it's like you go from 1 sharp to 2 sharps to 3 sharps or whatever, 1 flat to 2 flats to 3 flats. That's cool. But chromatically is cool because you kind of lock in the shape of things, like the feel of things, a little bit easier, I found, Peter. I'm wondering I know you've talked about this a little bit, but you do a lot of chromatic practice, and I'm wondering like what you find helpful about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they all have their place. Well, I mean, there's more than 3 ways, but if you talk about chromatic, circle of fifths, circle of fourths, which is just going in the other direction, yeah, it's exactly what you said. Like, if you need to lock in and just work on the shapes more, then you probably shouldn't go chromatic, because it's going to be a little bit too abrupt of a progression in terms of your practicing it. But once you have those locked in, I just like going chromatic. in any case, as you're going, you should change it up at a certain point. I think that's the important thing, is to not always do it the same way. But the reason, to answer your question as precisely as we can, the reason to do it chromatically is to get you, there's an ear training component to this. There's a fingering component. There's a shape component. Like, all these things are always happening simultaneously. So in terms of like ear training and fingering, you're having to adjust a little bit more abruptly when you move chromatically, just because of the way that the piano is laid out. So I think that there's a real advantage to that. But mixing in a little bit of circle of fifths too, I think is valuable as well. And as always, like, this is all part of sort of the creative scale practice conundrum, and hopefully solution, in that once you get tired of doing it one way, that's a good enough reason to switch to the other way too. It's like, this stuff can become very boring, so it's like, change it up, challenge yourself, get creative with it, make it as fun as it can be.
That's great. All right, Caleb, do we have any other questions? Certainly, we must have something.
Please note, it is after 10 p.m. here local time.
I mean, it's 3:30 here. It's not. It wouldn't be the end of the world.
You're close to happy hour, but it's, yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time. All right. Mark asks, any advice on transitioning from basic scales to more complex modes over 2 or 3 octaves within a solo? Interesting.
Well, one thing I just would say, not even within the solo, is like, when you're getting into modes of, like, especially modes, I would say, of the major scale, be careful as you transition. Like, if you look at the major scale as a basic scale, and it doesn't get any more basic than that, but I would say even more than that, it's just foundational, because you can, of course, have a mode of any scale, and certain, like a pentatonic scale or an octatonic type of scale, those modes can be very interesting too, and important. But when we talk about, like, sort of the foundations of the music, and like learning different tunes and chord progressions and standards even, and then like modern jazz standards, the modes of the major scale are just they're just used so much. But you want to be careful on the piano, because I think it's important to really learn, like, the fingerings and like the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, how it sounds of those modes separate from the major scale. So in other words, if you learn C major, D flat, say you're going chromatically, and then you're like, okay, I want to learn the Dorian, so now I'm going to jump right from C major to D Dorian, you're going to be hearing it like it's C. You might even be trying to fingering it like it's C. So it's like, try not to learn it back to back like that, because you want to hear, you want to finger, and you want to identify that arpeggio up to the 9th and really beyond as its own separate thing. And that's, again, where going through chromatically can really help you. But you want to make sure that you get those, because it's not just about learning the easiest fingering for these scales. It's about learning the function of them. It's learning how that they're the underpinnings of not only tunes that you're going to play, but improvisations that you're going to do. And so that's the tricky thing with modes, is they can start to be too connected with the major scale. It just becomes like a diatonic running up and down of something that you already know.
Totally true. Yeah, that's great. Hank DeVry, favorite chord voicing. So I really love. I have a couple, and I'll take this one first, and because you don't have a piano, Peter, so I can play if you direct me. I can play, but this
I have a mental
one,
piano.
There you go. This is one I learned when I first started transcribing you, Peter, and I heard it, and then when I transcribed you playing this, I was like, oh, that's the sound. I really love that sound. It's this, right? So it's like a B flat 7. Flat 9, sharp 11 with a natural 13. So my left hand I have B flat, D, and A flat, and in my right hand I have this E minor triad in the second inversion, and then you could have the B flat on top, but which you often do. I just there's something about this particular voicing. It's a third, it's a tritone, it's a minor third, it's a fourth, it's a third, it's a third. There's something that's so balanced. Some voicings just are really, really balanced. This feels super balanced.
Yeah.
It makes me want to go somewhere. I don't know where, but that's one of my favorites.
No, it is. It's good. It's got the right balance of tension, but it's not too tense where it's like got to resolve right away. But I think I always wonder about if there's some mathematics behind this. But I think that part of that balance is you've really got an E major triad and an E minor triad kind of right there. Yeah.
Right. So the middle voicings here, if you go here, it's E major, and there it's E minor, and that does give you that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Triad pair.
Well, no, this you can because this is like a diminished scale kind of voicing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You can do that sort of minor major thing.
Yep.
Right. E minor major, D flat minor major, B flat minor major, G minor major.
Yep.
It works so beautifully.
Yeah, and I think too because you've got those two triads, but that's 4 notes because of the overlap, and you've got 2 minor thirds separated by a perfect fourth, and that's like not all voicings. The middle of them are like the underpinnings, but this one definitely is. It's like those 4 notes are what make it. Like the top B flat and the bottom B flat are almost optional. I mean, you got to kind of have one to ground it, but if you just played those 2 triads, those 4 notes, and you had a bass player playing a B flat, it would work really good too. You know?
I do it all the time, man.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's great.
And you can put that voicing in your left hand, those 4 notes, and improvise over that, and just jump down to the B flat every now and then.
Sounds great, right?
Yeah, and then the voice leading from that to an E flat major 7 or an E flat major 6/9 is fantastic. Yep. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very good. Very good. Okay, I'm going to grab this one. Related to the discussion from Ed, how do you find the right amount of time to spend on a concept or practice technique before moving on? Okay, so I would say that this is one to really have some flexibility in your practice because, I think it's important to identify, and certainly to learn about and to investigate and learn from others what are the concepts or practice techniques or new concepts that you need to work on or maybe are holes in your playing or you need to review or whatever. So it's like the identification of those things. But once you get into practicing them, I think if you're flexible and you're really like kind of go into it, you're practicing with an open and inquisitive and humble mindset, then you'll be able to sort of have that the amount of time you stay on it guided by how much progress you're making, as opposed to like a rigid thing of like you can be rigid about, I want to work on my left hand voicings because I don't have enough and my voicings suck and I don't know what to play. So that's a valid reason to like cordon off a part of your practice every day for left hand voicings. But then as you get going, like you want to have a strategy. What was Ron Carter talking about with this up in New York? How many times did he say you got to have a plan? It's like have a plan. So that plan, for left-hand voicings might be like, I'm going to learn, 4 new voicings transcribe them from recordings that I love every day, or 2 or whatever it is. And then, or I'm going to go through one of Adam's courses where he plays some great left-hand voicings and identify 2 of those a day, wherever your source is. But then in terms of the amount of time, you want to really be listening to yourself. It's kind of like when you're working out or running, listen to your body. Don't just go out and be like, I'm going to run 10 miles today because last week that worked for me. Well, maybe you go out today and your ankle starts hurting at mile 5. You don't push through. Or maybe at mile 10, you're like, wow, I'm feeling fresh. So then you keep going. So it's the same thing with this. If you're really rolling on those left-hand voicings, after 20 minutes, maybe that was your schedule, but you're like, wow, I'm inspired by this. I'm hearing something. I want to keep going. So don't be like, time is over. No, that's the beautiful thing about this music is we have flexibility. We have the improviser's mindset. We have all these great things available. So don't be thinking about what you need to be getting to. Just go with the flow. Go with the flow. I mean, they talk about flow state in terms of performance and composing. I've always been more interested in flow state for practice. Because if you can get into a really good flow state when you practice, you can maximize whatever amount of time that you have. You might not be able to get to everything that you hoped you'd get for when you woke up in the morning, but that doesn't matter. Like, you want to get to the most amount of meaningful development in your playing, you know? So, and then the same thing is like, well, if you start going and you're having trouble hearing those voicings and you only get one and you're feeling frustrated, that's okay. Put it to the side, you know, live for another day and then move on to something else. So I would just say that the amount of time that you spend now, keep in mind, there's certain things you just need to practice at different times. And for a lot of people that's every day. So this is not an excuse to be like, oh, I don't like scales, so I'm never going to practice them because Peter and Adam said go with the flow. You know, it's not about that, but it is about more on the other side of like when things are going well, keep pushing through with that time.
Yeah, I would add to that, and I love what you're saying here, Peter, because I think you and I have actually evolved quite a bit on this as we've had the podcast and been talking to people, because I do think, Ed, there will be a time where you won't ask this question anymore, like, because I don't think about this anymore. And Peter, I know you don't either, because we understand that it's about showing up every day. There's plenty to practice and there's always something to work on. But you get to a point where you know what those things are and you know yourself really, really well. So Ed, if you're asking this question, it sounds like you don't, like you're unsure of, you have doubt about what you should be practicing. So my advice to you is to do what a lot of musicians do until they feel comfortable with themselves and their practice routine. Record yourself a lot. Like, record yourself performing, record yourself practicing, and be honest about that feedback. Give yourself some self-feedback. Don't be brutal about it. Don't be too harsh. Just be honest. And then you're going to know exactly what you should be working on. And just like Peter was saying, then just follow your gut or your heart or whatever it is, and realize that you can't stick with something for a super extended long period because you're going to get bored and burnt out on it. But also you can't just hit it for an hour and feel like, oh, I've got left-hand voicings tucked in. Another thing to realize is that nobody stops working on this stuff. This is kind of a lifelong game. You start just broadening scope the better you get at these little technical things. But for now, man, like everybody I know who was learning how to play music did a lot of recording themselves early on. With tape players back in the day, or even just getting direct feedback from a teacher can be very good. But that way you kind of hear like, okay, this is really what I want to work on today, because I can see that this is where, like, that's what I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to sound like that. I want these voicings to be better in my left hand. It'll give you inspiration to like follow your heart about what you're interested in. And then a lot of listening to your favorite players and really focusing on like, who do I really love listening to? Like, if you love listening to Errol Garner, but you're transcribing Herbie Hancock, because Peter and I love Herbie Hancock, you should transcribe Errol Garner. Like, you should follow your heart in that sense, right? Like, be the musician, the artist that you want to be. I mean, it's also something that comes with experience as you learn to trust your own taste.
And I think it really dovetails nicely with what we were talking about on the earlier question in terms of 1 inch wide, a mile deep. You know, even if you hear Adam and I and Chris and Christian McBride and all the great open studio, I mean, just all the great jazz artists talk about great concepts or practice techniques. Not only do you not have to do all of them, you can't do all of them anyway. And that's okay. So like, that doesn't make one better or more valid than the other. It's like, it's a beautiful thing. It's like if you go to a garden and there's like all these beautiful fruits and vegetables and you're like, you know, if you eat them all, you might get sick. And it's okay to just pick some. It doesn't mean that they're your favorites or not. And you don't even have to worry about like, am I picking the right one? No. Just pick one. And what I was trying to introduce is just this idea that some days what we pick or what we feel like we need to practice is not working. And that's okay. So
that's okay.
And I just meant to say that it's not an excuse to always, like, you can't be like, you know what, scales aren't working for me today. In fact, scales aren't ever working for me, so I'm never going to practice them. That's not okay. But you can, push that to another day.
Well, not only is it not okay, is you realize after some experience, Ed, that that's just how it is. Like, it's to be expected occasionally for you to have to switch gear, not be into something for a while, or to leave it for weeks or months even and come back to it. That's what being a musician is. Coming back to it.
And then the only other thing I would add in terms of amount of time, just looking at your question again, is now I want you have to put in and I can't tell you exactly how much time this is. You have to learn this yourself, but there is a minimum amount of time for any practice technique or concept that you need to put in. Don't be impatient, like, and just push something back, because you can get a lot of false signals and false flags in terms of like this stuff is difficult. It can be, and it can be painful, especially at the beginning, but to get to a breakthrough. So you have to be attuned to getting to that point where you might get a breakthrough. So don't just stop because it is hard. It's more of a thing of like when things are flowing and you're progressing, not when it's easy. It's like when it's just like everything is falling into place. Go with that. Don't feel like, oh, now I got to stop and move on to something else. Take advantage of that time.
Absolutely. And one more thing for me on this, Ed, is that remember how your brain works, right? We don't get to learn anything as human beings without putting the spotlight of our attention on the concept we're trying to learn, or, like Peter said, an undetermined but certainly a substantial period of time. And it's different for everybody. And so just know that if you want to learn something, if you want to learn stride piano, you have to focus that spotlight on stride piano for a certain amount of time, and just plan for that. Like Ron Carter says, make a plan.
All right. I have the perfect prop for this. Vamp for a second.
Okay. So we can just take Chip's question here. Hold on. Peter's going to get a prop. But I will, Chip, I'll get to your question here. What tips do you have for non-pianist? Okay, here's Peter. Okay.
Can you see that? This was a gift for me from a beautiful young lady. It says Amor Fati. This is an old philosophy. Is it Stoic, I think? But it basically means love your fate. I mean, that's not an exact translation. I mean, that is an exact translation. It doesn't get the whole nuances. There's like acceptance, but it's like lean into where you're going, And so I think with the practice, that's what made me think of that.
Lean into the acceptance, and it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
Lean into the fact that you're gonna have to put your spotlight of attention on something you want to learn for it to stick. Nobody gets around that.
Yep.
Chip says, what tips do you have for non-pianists getting familiar with jazz piano 101?
Jazz piano jumpstart.
Yeah, we've got a course.
That's a little thing that Adam and I did. And you could certainly do all that stuff without getting the course too. I don't want to say that we have, but that's kind of an easy way in. But a lot of the stuff that we talk about in there is about, sort of, it's not skipping over the basic piano technique, but it's like, it's a pathway to be able to play some of the like really fundamental things like root shell, root 7/3, and learn how to move around some basic progressions with that without feeling like you have to have like piano lessons just to learn how to play the instrument. Of course, if you learn a proper classical technique over many years and then move on to you're going to have better results. But that's not what this is about. You're talking about non-pianists being able to sit down. I mean, we were at the sound check yesterday, and almost every time we walk in, like if the bass is like not together yet, Christian will, and I'm not at the piano already, Christian McBride will like sit down at the piano. And you're talking about a non-piano. I mean, you've heard him when we did the chorus. He sits down like he's probably the top level of a non-pianist. But where does the line go into you're actually a pianist when you can play beautiful stuff at the piano? That makes you a pianist.
I was going to say what's crazy about Christian McBride is he was just in the studio the other day. And, it's the first time he saw our Bosendorfer, and he goes over and he starts playing it. And not only does he have this big, beautiful sound on the bass, he's got a big, beautiful sound on the piano. I was like,
I know.
That's a good sound and touch that you've got. That's annoying.
Right. It is. Well, I mean, he brings that musical concept and listening and ear training to pretty much any instrument he can play. But I think that he was very much, progressive and additive in terms of like his development. I don't know. He probably did take like some piano lessons at some point, but it was more about like really exploring and like having an open mindset, because the piano is an instrument, if it is not your main instrument. And I mean, for me, it actually was not my first instrument, although I was very young when I started to play it, but it was not my first instrument. So I can kind of identify with this in a little bit of a way, in that like it gives you a type of possibility if you approach it from that standpoint that can be so, illustrative and just enhance your other instrument in a way that I don't think any other instrument can. Maybe the guitar, you could say, and you could speak to this because you're a really good guitarist, and I know that wasn't your first instrument as well. But I think that, when you just build up, and I think Christian's a great example of this, is like starting with very basic stuff, but then connecting that with listening, with recordings, and trying to figure out some basic things, and then just adding like one note at a time, like your great concept of the root shell pretty. It's like that's how you build up things. Rome wasn't built in a day, but you can have like that vibe and that connection with the music, even on the root and shell, and then you add just one pretty note, still got the rhythm happening, still got the form, start to get a little bit of independence in the hands. Like those are the things that can really, make you to be a great non-pianist, but make it so that you sit down and people are like, whoa, that sounds good. It might not sound like Art Tatum, but it feels like Art Tatum in a weird way,
Yeah, man. No, that's exactly right. Those basic building blocks, they go a long way. And you don't have to do much, Chip. You just have to learn, like Peter said, a few root shell pretty. Here, I'm going to find that let's see here. Find that video.
Oh, the root shell pretty video. Oh yeah. Oh, that's a great one. Great one.
Here we go.
Check out this.
Oh, come on. Throw it up there.
Here you go, Chris. So you start with that. I'll give you some really basic chords.
I thought you were going to play it.
Oh, yeah.
That's
What
okay.
am I doing, man? I've got a piano right here. No, the root thing is, I could have played the video, but just this idea of, and there's a ton of ways to start your voicing journey, but the root shell pretty thing is, if you want a C major 7, having the root, having the 3rd and 7th, and then just one extra pretty note, like the 13th or the 9th or the 5th, and you can do that all the way around. But check out that video for a deeper dive.
And the great thing about that concept too is like it not only gives you some cool voicings, but it expands your ears and kind of your mindset about how to construct voicings in a really simple and additive way, in that like how does just one note, because this is the thing, you can't leapfrog. I mean, you can leapfrog and like do 6 and 7 note voicings even at a pretty basic piano level and learn to play them, but you're not developing the actual skills that you need to be able to take and apply to your other instrument if you do that. If you just add one note at a time and really listen in and give your ears a chance to hear what that one note does, add one note at the bottom, you got the root and the shell, one pretty note. Well, what does that do? Like that, those are the types of things that you can take to your improvisation and then kind of horizontalize, in a way that can be very exciting. So it's like take it just slowly, let your ears adjust, and it'll really enhance your playing.
Maximilian K says favorite album right now. I'm right now listening to like a trio of really great albums. I'm listening to this Hank Jones, Charlie Hayden record from the 90s, which is all hymns. I'm going to space on the title of the album, but it's got this version of Danny Boy that we've been working on in Open Studio Pro. It's absolutely gorgeous. Just church songs with Hank Jones and Charlie Hayden. You can't go wrong. Just duo, and it's so beautiful. I've also been checking out over the weekend Robert Glasper's Black Radio 3, which just dropped last week. And then I've been digging this ambient artist from Spain named Suso Sites that I think is really, really great. So those are the 3 on the list.
I was going to send a text message to Robert Glasper saying, congrats on the album. Really adventurous with the titling there, man. You're really stepping out there, man. Take a concept that works and just keep riding it.
Brand. It's on brand.
That's right.
But you can get with Black Radio 3.
Exactly. Okay, so I don't know about favorite, but something that I just listened to the last couple of days was some recordings that I heard them, but I never really listened to them, I'm ashamed to say, which is Brad Mehldau Live at the Village Vanguard. Volume 1, man. Volume 2. They're really good.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
When we played in I can't roll my R. Can you roll your R's?
Nope, can't do it.
Okay. Brno, Czech Republic, 4 days ago, the beginning of the tour.
Brad not to do it in that way. I know definitely not to go.
I know that's not, but I mean that's like that. That's the Central Corridor St. Louis way to do it. Come on, man. But in Brno, Czech Republic, not Bruno Mars. Brno, Czech Republic. Brad Mehldau came to our gig. He was actually going to be playing with the symphony, I think, there the next night. at the hall we were
Cool.
playing, and so it was super cool. Came and hung, and Christian had him come sit in, and we were talking. He just sat in on a D flat blues and just killed it. But I was hanging with him some and talking afterwards, and he was saying he'd heard the live at the Vanguard that we did, and it's funny because he said, like, we joke Adam about different shortenings, and he's like, man, how did you like recording at the Guard? And I was like, what? And I had to think about it. He was talking about the Vanguard. I was like, oh yeah, no, I liked it a lot. He's like, oh, it's so great, man. He called it the Guard. I know.
Guard. I mean,
Mehldau
through like 4 iconic live albums at the Guard. You can call it whatever the hell you want. That's funny.
Yeah, it was funny, man. I was laughing, but he said, yeah, and I was just telling him, I was like, man, I said, I was like, man, I really enjoy your records. I was like, I never really, I don't know why I told him. I was just like, I didn't check him out. He's like, me neither, but that got me thinking. So I was listening on Spotify the next couple of days as we were traveling, and it's funny, man. Like they sound dated now in such a great way. Like they're very much like it took me back to that period.
No, everybody, and also everybody's copied him since then. So
yes,
it's like there's been
exactly.
That, for
exactly.
Sure.
And so you get to hear the original. I mean, not that obviously he was influenced on things with that, and then just live trio recordings at the Vanguard. But he's such a great place that he comes in with that. And I was at a couple of those gigs too, live. So that was my other thing. I was always kind of like, I was at the gig. I remember that, But to be able to go back and hear the recordings out was super fun, and just get to hang with him and reconnect a little bit was really great. Because we don't. I mean, you and I. This is a rare thing, Adam, that we hang out as two pianists, and this has been such a beautiful. Yeah, it's so special. But usually pianists, I mean, we don't hang out because you're on the road. It's one pianist per band.
Yeah, it's not like saxophone players where you could have a couple in the band and they play different stuff, or you're in a big band or whatever. Even in a big band, there's usually just one of us.
That's right, and that's not even needed.
No.
Or wanted.
Tracy says, how is it playing on a different piano each venue? Are they always really good pianos? Oh, Tracy, don't be so nice.
So I'm just looking at. So we've played on this tour Brno, Budapest, Vienna, Helsinki, and now Copenhagen. Is that right? I might be forgetting something. But they have been killer pianos. I don't want to jinx things going on. All 4 of them. Yeah,
Europe. You're gonna. It's just in concert halls and clubs in Europe. You're gonna be okay in general.
Yeah, and the one club we played at, which was so fun, the Porgy and Bess Club. In big shout out to Porgy and Bess in not the Opera Stars, but the club in Vienna, which is an amazing place. I mean, I played there a couple times, but it's been years. I mean, probably 6 or 8 years since I last played there. But they have a Fazioli, like an 8-foot, like and that, I mean, it's incredible in a club. It's almost like, I don't want to say too good of a piano, but the only thing with that piano is it takes an adjustment, and it's been played a lot because it's a club. There are 2 sets and whatever, and so like I can tell it's having trouble keeping up with it. So to answer your question, even when like the pianos are really good, there's still that adjustment. You know what I mean? And I think for pianists, what our thing is like, how can we, like, I always try to think about the end result of where I want to get to, like when I come into the sound check, because that's the time to get to know the piano. I don't think it's the time to see everything that it can do, because you don't really know that until you're playing on the gig with the energy of the audience and the band and everything. So I'm not one to like try to push the piano as far as it can go and everything, but I just kind of want to know, like, first of all, if there's any like limitations to it or workarounds. Like that's kind of level 1, like if you need to do any workarounds because it has like some unevenness or weak spots, or God forbid, an out of tune section. I don't know. I mean, they're hopefully stuff that we can avoid, but the reality of what it is. But I don't think it's a time that you can push it because you're having to fake it too much. So I like to leave that to the gig. I mean, but that piano in a way was the most challenging.
You haven't been slumming it like me for a while, man. I played road piano. Weren't just out of tune in sections; they were missing notes, missing whole strings. in section.
That's a limitate. We call that a limitation. That's a limitation you need to learn about. You got to work around your voicings. That can make it fun.
It's interesting. So a Fazioli in a club is an interesting conundrum. It's like having a rental car that's a Ferrari or something. Like it'd be a little bit weird to have the general population banging away on it every night and how it holds up. They probably weren't meant for that, those pianos take a lot of abuse, That's why, man, we're always like, of course, from my favorite pianos are Steinways. Like a great Steinway, I think, still is the standard bearer for the sound that I love. But when I go to a club and I see a 7-foot, 8-foot Yamaha, I'm super happy because I know it's probably going to be solid. I know
good things can happen. Good things can happen there.
I might not get that special Steinway that you sometimes get, or Fazioli or Bosendorfer, but I know that if it's a club piano, I know that it's going to hold its tune. It's going to be like probably more than likely it's going to be like easy to play and fun to play and give me what I need from it.
Yeah. Well, it was fun too. I love that they put the Fazioli in the club. It's like 4 blocks away from the Bosendorfer factory and headquarters in Vienna. It's a little bit of a slap in the face to the local brand. So that's kind of fun,
Hold on, we got to stop here because Noriko is talking about cheese. Anyone likes Midnight Moon? Yes, I also enjoy Midnight Moon. Noriko, I love that cheese. That's a good one. All right, Caleb,
where does Midnight Moon come from?
I actually don't know.
Midnight Moon? Oh, I never heard of that.
It might be in New York.
The one I used to love when I was eating that kind of stuff was Saint Andre.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is like a triple cream brie French situation. Oh my god, that was good. Just on some good baguette.
Yeah, on a good baguette or a really lovely watercress cracker. You know what I'm saying? Beaujolais season. You know what I'm saying?
Bougie. It's more like Beaujolais season. Bougie for you. The watercress cracker.
You could also ask, just what I want to ask is, how do you manage playing the song you don't really like? That's a good question.
That's a fantastic question because everybody experiences this. Even Herbie Hancock, dare I say. Can we just put it out there? Like Herbie is, we don't want to say the word because it's disrespectful to people's religious beliefs, God, but he's the deity of this pot, right? I mean, let's just be honest. We love Barry Harris. Well, there's a lot of people we love, but like if we're going to put up one standard bearer, who would that be?
It would be Herbie. I mean,
right.
If you switch places career-wise with anybody, wouldn't it be Herbie?
Right.
Wouldn't it be great to be Herbie? To be like, could you imagine a better career for a modern musician who is still doing it than Herbie?
If I were to call you, Adam, at 4 a.m., wake you up, or just knock on your door in Webster Groves, right?
Yes, you would
wake you up.
Staring out of my studio.
Yeah, no, I know that. But if I were to just bang on your door and say, Adam, I got to quit the podcast, but I got you a new co-host. His name is Herbie Hancock. Would you give me a hug? Would you hug me?
No, because I couldn't talk to Herbie.
Yes, you would.
It
would be awesome.
Never razz Herbie like I like to razz you, man.
The tone would change. It would not be an even. There'd be a little. It would not be 2 even squares like this. It would be like a teeny little square. And you probably wouldn't pull out your keyboard view as often as you do either.
No, I would not. Just knowing that he's possibly ever seen anything we've done is enough.
Okay, let's see if we can tackle this. Playing a song you don't really like. Okay, so I've done this a lot, actually. I feel like, but I don't think I do it any more than anybody else. So I think I feel like it's a common thing. I don't feel like I have this like high standards on songs that I like. I mean, obviously there's some, I think we identify different levels. Like there's some songs we just hate, but you're saying don't really like. So like just something where it's like, it doesn't give you that feeling of like, oh, I can't wait to play that. It's kind of like, oh, I got to play that. But I look at that, as really as a challenge. So I kind of end up enjoying it for some reason because to me it's just harder and more challenging than playing something that you really like. Because when you like something, you can kind of screw it up sometimes, I think, because you feel like it's going to be easy and you feel like, oh, I'm just going to play it and I like it and it sounds great. So to me, the prototype of that is Lush Life. So like, it's such a perfect song in a lot of ways that you can lull yourself into being like, if you know it and you really can play it, like just play it straight and you're going to be fine. That's fine. But if you don't really concentrate as you're playing it and bring out the magic that's there and don't overplay parts and don't underplay, like you can back yourself into the corner where it's like, wow, he screwed up Lush Life, which many people have. But there's not a lot of people that don't love that song on some level, so that wouldn't fall into this. Something that you're like, you don't really like, it's like, think about what a beautiful thing it is with this music of jazz that we play, in that we can add things. We can even take things away. We can personalize it.
Noriko, the way to think about this too is that you're not playing the song you don't like. You're playing this song that you don't like, but now it has you on it. And so now you can make it into something more that you like. You can add yourself to it, which you like, hopefully, and you can add the things you like about music to this song that you don't like. Like it's like pizza, right? There's not a pizza you don't really like. You know, still bad pizza is a good meal, right? That kind of idea, right? But adding yourself to whatever it is, and that's the job. You know, that's what we're paid to do.
So I think that a great example of this, if you want to just, emulate and look at some specific techniques of how this is done, the first person that comes to mind is Ella Fitzgerald, because she sang so many songs and they were not all great. I don't think she liked all of them, and I don't like all of them. So, but one thing that stayed constant was her voice and her artistry. So for her, it's a little bit of acting too, though, because I think for her, some of those songs were a drag, but because she kept, I think somehow, either consciously or unconsciously, she kept in mind that to the listener, we don't know that it's a drag to you unless you let us know that. You know what I mean?
Totally. Absolutely.
Like some of these actors that make movies because they're under multiple movie contracts and they don't want to do it. Yeah, you can tell if they don't want to do it, if they're just phoning it in. But if they put everything into it, it's like, wow, they really love it. And then they elevate it to something else. And so, like Mac the Knife, I don't really like that song. And every time I've played it, I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. And so I'd be like, that song sucks. That's why I don't sound good on it. Well, check out Ella Fitzgerald on it. Like, what's the magic that she can make out of that thing,
Sonny Rollins. I think of him when I think of that song, because I also don't like the ding a ding ding version of it or whatever, but I do like some. But it's like that thing of like, if I have to do something like that I think is corny or that I don't think is a high quality song or something that I'm having to play, which happens often actually, then I do think of like, well, I'm going to still enjoy first of all, you're still playing music, right? It's still these sounds that we get to manipulate, and because we're doing it, Noriko, we put the things we like in it.
Yeah, I mean, the only real success that I can point to, honestly, on this though, is St. Thomas. Full disclosure, I don't really like that song. I don't like playing it.
Your solo on that song, though.
I know, and so I do feel like a little bit of sense of pride in that. That I was able to pull off something that people like. I don't necessarily like that, and I certainly don't listen to that track. But that's never been even Sonny Rollins playing it. Of course, like Sonny sounds great on it, but that's not going to be the first Sonny Rollins track that I put on. So, I think it's just I don't know. I'm throwing a little controversy out there.
Awesome.
Do you like that song, Adam?
I do. Well, I like when you play it. Yeah.
I love the island of St. Thomas. I've actually spent a lot of time there. I love St. Thomas the island.
St. Thomas
it's awesome. Yeah.
I love, man, but you know what? Saxophone Colossus for me is up there. It's like a top 10 record for me. Like that's a desert island. Like if I ever get stranded on St. Thomas, I'm taking that album with me. You know what I mean?
That would be dripping in irony if your desert island out. Well, first of all, St. Thomas is like the least deserted island in the Caribbean, so that's going to be hard.
I tried to jam that in there. It didn't work.
That was good. That was good.
All right. Caleb, what else we got? Oh, what's up, David?
What's up, Dave?
I'm trying to learn my pieces from memory, but at performance time, I still find myself having a chart in front of me, like having a net. Any tips for transitioning? Don't bring your charts with you.
Actually, that's exactly. You know what? I can speak to this because last night I was like, I said because I've kind of had the charts. Christian is so free and open, and this band has a lot of music, so I have my charts there. But most of the stuff I know pretty much. And last night I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna open the folder. I was like, no matter what. I mean, unless he went so far into the vaults that I wouldn't know the first chord. So there was two tunes that I messed some stuff up on, but I didn't mess it up enough. I think that it didn't take away from like it sort of because he called some new stuff that we hadn't done this tour yet. I mean, the stuff we'd been doing before that I knew. Like after we played it one time, I'm like, I know it. But if I'd had the music in front of me, I don't think I would have been able to catch up with really being able to lock it in. So you have to remove the net.
You messed some stuff up, but you're not going to mess it up again. Like what that is. Right?
Exactly.
Exactly. And David, that is going to happen. Like you might make some mistakes, but it's just going to, really reveal what it is you don't know. And like someone is also asking here about, ways to emulate the pressure and nerves of performance while practicing at home. There's no great way of doing that unless you live stream and you want to go that route. But even then, there's something about the physical presence of other people in the room with you and then having to do it there that you just can't recreate. So David, unfortunately, you might have to just try this, not bring a few charts that you think really well, and, just be prepared to fail a little bit. But that failure is going to help you get better.
Right. And I do think, though, that we can use, a live stream or even just anybody in the house come listen to me play. Like, it's not so much the audience, although that does add another element in, but a recorder, video recording of you. The main thing is that when you go into it.
That kind of recorder?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, like you have that's a song I used to play on recorder. Sorry. I did the Orff method. Thank you very much.
Orff, yeah.
No, but I think that whatever you're doing, small audience of family members, live stream, playing to a video, putting your camera recording, the main thing is that you have to go into it with the idea of like, I'm going to play this one time. I'm going to perform this piece. And you can do that with nobody, even if you don't have a video recorder. If you're on a desert island of St. Thomas, you could just say, I'm going to set it up for the sand and the crabs that are there. But you have to commit to being like, you can't cheat and be like, oh, nobody's really here, so I can start over. You have to do it in real time. It's just like you're telling somebody a story. When you're telling a story, what's the easiest way to screw up the story? Is to be like, wait, hold on. Let me go back to let me jump back and retell. You can't do that. A movie, a story, a soliloquy or whatever. You got to start here and then go there. So as long as you're doing that, audience, imagined audience or not, like you will be able to practice. You might screw up, and you know what? Hope that you're lucky enough to fail at some stuff so that you can live for another day.
Trying to put his comment up here. So true, performing Fridays on the GPS for the Masters is similar. So yeah, so sometimes we do performances on Open Studio Pro in the Friday GPS, and that is, David, is a great way to try this stuff if you wanted to try.
Yeah. And look, when you've got that Friday, that deadline. I mean, that's one of the reasons I did all those Friday night lives was because I wanted an appointment with like the destiny of where I was at, and I was not always like, playing the tunes that I saved or that I really knew or whatever. But it's like that's how like I'm not just thinking about that gig. I'm thinking about the next gig and the next gig and like on this tour. It's like I could have played everything perfectly last night with the music, but I'm thinking about the next gig, and I want to play that even better. Like it's all part of a thing. It's a living, breathing organism, a tour, performances or whatever. And all the stuff that you think you're messing up, nobody cares nearly as much as you. This is not brain surgery in which you're going to kill somebody. That doesn't mean that we don't care about it as much as it's brain surgery. It's as important as brain surgery, and I think now even more so. I mean, we were talking about like this tour we're on now. We like 2 days before. I mean, Adam, we talked. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna go. I don't know if it's gonna be canceled. Europe, all this stuff that's happening. But it's like when you play music and people are like, wow, I wasn't thinking about the fucked up world for 2 hours or 90 minutes. It's like, that means something, it means something to me. It means something to the audience. It means something to you. It means, so like we're here to serve. as musicians, first and foremost. We are not here to be clapped at. We are not here to get awards or Grammys. That's fine if you get that. But like, we are providing a service, just like a restaurant or something. And that is to, to soothe people's souls, to elevate them, to put a smile on their face, to bring them joy. So it is not as much about like, what are the number of mistakes in your mind that you made that makes it an edifying performance.
We were talking about this on the podcast. I think the podcast that just came out today, on the You'll Hear It podcast, we were talking about mistakes and how, like, just owning what's happening, just being real and present with whatever is going on in the room that you're in, whether you're playing music or not, is such an important part of life. I had a gig last weekend where there was an honest to God mini train wreck on the bridge of this tune, right? Where we were just unclear with, like, the singer kind of threw it in at sound check, and we were all kind of like, I don't know about that one, and then we went ahead and went through with it. And there was a
wait. Question: a singer threw something in that caused a train wreck?
I know, right? Yeah. And then, but we were kind of feeling. I like to say we were kind of feeling that bridge out for a few beats. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm sure it was a little awkward, but we were also, the three musicians who were on stage were all very tight, and we were very good and with each other and like with communication, and we were kind of like smiling about it, like, what, we got this, what is that, you know how it is, where you just like playfully like, what it is, and the audience ate it up, man. Like we wouldn't record that, but you're in a live room with people figuring stuff out, and people actually love to see that negotiation sometimes when it's like, we're here and we've got you, even when we mess up, we've got you, like, it's okay if we're okay with it, you're okay with it, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's what leads to some thrilling moments. It doesn't necessarily, like, you can't just be reckless and be like, I'm going to lead to a thrilling moment, but that can lead to some thrilling stuff. I got a chance to play that gig with Vince Mendoza, Diane Reeves, and the Colorado Symphony a couple weeks ago, and I remember the principal clarinetist, who was just awesome there. We had a couple of solos written in some of the arrangements. And I remember he was like, on one of them, he kind of just was really getting into it on the performance, and he kind of messed it up. Because, classical musicians have the reputation of like, oh, they always play everything perfectly accurately, but they do the same thing. The good ones. Yeah. The average ones are like just worried about not making any mistakes, but the good ones get into it, and he kind of like went over, and he sort of looked over at me and was like, but he went with it. And it was a really cool and thrilling moment. So it's like, these things, we don't go out to make mistakes because that's going to be fun and cool, but we're open to pushing things in a way and being willing to walk out on that ledge and teeter over it and see what happens, because we're serving the audience, and that's fun for them.
It's so great. We had Open Studio Pro today. We had our Monday Masters where we transcribed something. We've been working on that Hank Jones, Charlie Hayden, the Danny Boy, just the Hank Jones part of it. And one of our members, Kayla, who I think had to split, she was in here, but she had to split. She had this like beautiful version of her transcription. She recorded a video for, and then she's in the chat as we're all watching it together, and she says, I kind of missed that one thing at the end. And I said, Chayla, no one cares. We're riveted by your performance. Like, you could have, like, you were convincing me that what Hank Jones played was wrong. Like, I was so into it. I mean, like, that's how it, like, I felt safe because of how confident she was doing. And for her to kind of like in the chat later be like, oh, I should have done that better. And like, no, this is what happens. Embrace it,
Yeah, I was just throwing up a couple comments I thought were great. Glenn, sorry, Caleb. I jumped up in there. Glenn Gould a bit. Yeah, I mean, he had the jazz musician's mentality. Very much. Copenhagen's in the house. That's right.
I know.
We're repping hard.
And you're in Copenhagen.
I'm in Copenhagen. Yep.
Micah says, how does one learn to think ahead to play longer lines? I can manage maybe 2 or 3 measures, often starting with an enclosure, but I can't think of enclosures midstream. Why you need to think of enclosures, Micah?
That's right. So this, I think, goes to the concept that we talk about sometimes. That I think I'm a really big believer in this. Is like, think about enclosures when you're practicing. Think about them, practice them. Enclosure is 1 inch across, go a mile deep, go a mile high on enclosures. And then when you go to start playing, as painful as this sounds and as much as you think you can't do this, but we're giving you license. Forget about enclosures. Don't ever think about an enclosure as you improvise, and let that come out. Trust in that process of your practice, and just revel. It will come out, and then so much more prosperous for you in terms of your improvisation when it comes out in a unexpected, natural, and organic way.
Totally. One thing you might try practicing with this, Micah, is sort of, instead of the what notes should I play method, think of the feeling in your hand method. So just think of like, if you want longer lines and you want to connect them so they're not just like all this kind of thing, think of like, when I get to my thumb, I'm just going to make a little turn. Or when I get to my pinky going up. Now when I get to my thumb, when you're going down, like when you get to your pinky going up, when you get to your thumb going down, just think, I'm going to turn on that somehow, right?
Right.
That can help you to like elongate your lines because you're not just going up and down and up and down.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so the other side of this too is that you can definitely, if you feel like you're kind of limited to, with enclosures, to only being able to start with them, and you want to figure out a way to put them in, you can practice in a very restricted way. We call it restrictive practicing, but very regimented in terms of, you might say, I'm only going to play like 2-bar phrases, and I'm not going to start with any enclosures because I know how to do that. I'm just going to restrict myself to playing enclosures in the middle. And if that doesn't work, reduce it down to 1 bar. And if that doesn't work, just do it like out of time until you can find it. But like, you can definitely work that into your playing, into your ears, into your fingers as you practice. I think that's a great way to do it. But then still, please, once you get to performing or practicing performing, don't worry about that.
Don't worry.
Yeah. Let that come
And
out.
actually,
I mean, I can...
Our friend Brian Fielding has a good point too, which is that I recall Keith Jarrett frequently plays relative short lines.
Absolutely. And triads.
And triads, yeah. And so you might just recognize here that who's our guy? Is it Micah? Yeah, Micah. That if you go and listen to like phrase length of your favorite players, they're playing shorter phrases than you think they are.
Right. Right. And that's part of like kind of personalization, so you have to kind of find what your thing is. And I think it's important too, like, we don't want to think about, it's never like short, medium, long, like it's always a combination. I've been starting to think about the way people talk and the way people write, especially, I don't know, for some reason when I read something, what they would call in marketing copy, something that's well written. It's never like 5-word sentence and then a 5-word sentence and then a 5-word sentence. Like, that's not like the rhythm of that is not appealing. There has to be some kind of like progression to it. Like, guess what? I've got a fantastic story to tell you. Like, that is basic, but that makes sense. It's not like, guess what? I've got a fantastic story to tell you. Guess what? That's 2. I've got a fantastic story. So it's like you're juxtaposing things in a lot of the way that we do with syncopation, in terms of like, syncopation is not just ba 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 ba. It's like ba 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 ba. Like, you have to mix it up. You have to have different lengths, playing off of each other in an interesting and artistic way. So when you're practicing, it's okay to just do 2-bar phrases for mini courses, very regimented, 1-bar phrases, 3-beat phrases, whatever it is. But in application, you're going to be taking all of these and really trying to think in a holistic way. How do I want to tell my story? Like, and listening in real time. And I try to do this. I'm such a better, you know what? I shouldn't have ever opened my mouth. I should just sit at the piano. And if people ask me a question, I should just answer it because I'm so much better at that. But I do try to think about that when I speak. Like,
we open studio meetings with you at the piano. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, you'd be like, I want to raise, and I'll be like, boo dee boo bee boo ba boo doo ba bow boo 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 bow.
I think you said 20%, man.
Yeah, but it's like we can apply things that we're less talented. There's nothing wrong with that, but thinking about, and that's when, when you look at the intersection of language, lyrics, rhythm, and melody, when you can kind of get to these pinnacle moments. You talk about Brazilian music, Antonio Carlos Jobim, Caetano Veloso, all these great composers. Like part of that is because the rhythm and texture of the Brazilian Portuguese, specifically Brazilian Portuguese, is so exciting and like has so much of that rhythm built in. When you can pair that with the words, with the music, with the melody and the rhythm, it's just such a beautiful sound. But it's never like precise. It's never like 4 sentences in a row with 4 syllables each. It's never like that.
Awesome stuff.
The beautiful stuff.
Awesome, Caleb. I want to just call an audible here. We don't have a hard time out here, but we are getting long in the.
We're way over. Here. What are you talking about? Way over.
No, Dylan has this amazing question here, which is, how do you guys feel about balancing your life as a means of serving the music? Which I think is a way that nobody ever frames it. You think about balancing life as a way to serve your life, but as a way to serve the music is interesting framing, Dylan. Rubenstein had a quote about musicians living their life as opposed to living in a practice room. Do you all agree? So I think this is a great question and something that is really important. Like the more experienced I get at this stuff, Peter, and the more like badass musicians I'm around, the more I realize that it is about like living a life that is musical as opposed to. Well, there's actually this really good. Can everybody see that? Hold on.
Mono Neon. Nice.
You know Mono Neon?
Of course.
So check out this is his artist manifesto, and this happens at the end of his videos. Look at this. Look at the last bullet. Reject the worldly idea of becoming a musician. Just live music. How great is that?
Yeah.
How great.
With tights on your head. Of course.
With tights on your head. Anyway. But that idea of rejecting the worldly idea of being a great musician and just living a musical life, I think is the Dylan's question, is pretty inspirational, and realizing that your life and your art do not have to be these boxes where I'm just going to like give up my life to be in a practice room and that's going to make me a better artist. That's not always the case. Humanity is involved in making art, and so you have to be somewhat of an interesting human with a perspective on things to make good art.
Absolutely. I think absolutely. I mean, the more I'm doing this, the more it becomes just a very simple truth and very much a reality in terms of we're servants to the music and to humanity, to humans. I don't even want to overstate and say humanity, just to human beings. Like, we're here to serve, just like a waiter is there to serve food that we need for our nourishment. We're here to serve music to people for their nourishment. And this stuff is important, And so what's really, and I appreciate all you guys with, yes, I'm going to be with Mark, Diane Reeves in Toronto. God willing, I will be there whenever that is, next month. Getting out here to play music, from a logistics standpoint is a pain in the ass right now. Yeah. But it's a small thing to like, and I almost didn't do this tour. We all almost did it just because of it, the way the world's happening and like, the documentation and the testing you have to do and everything. But the thing is, like, people need music all the time for their nourishment, just like they need food and water. Just because they don't necessarily die because they don't have it doesn't mean that they don't need it, And so our job is to provide that. It's as basic and as simple as that. And there's nothing grandiose about it, actually. So I think that I love this idea of like we're in the practice room, but there's a reason we're in the practice room. It's so that when we go out to serve people, we can serve them as well as we can. And that's it, Yeah, and so absolutely. It's a responsibility that we have, and it's a full circle.
And learn that part of your job as a musician and an artist is to make things for you that you enjoy too. And so
yes, put that because we need it as listeners as we're playing.
Have you ever seen the show Alone, Peter? That's like they send out 10 people into like the tundra by the North Pole or whatever, and it's like and they're not around each other. They're like in their own space alone, and whomever is the last person there, they can like walkie-talkie to get a helicopter to come get them. And whoever is
Right.
the last person that's able to hang and not starve to death is the winner or whatever. So there are some people who are like avid, survivalists and outdoorsmen that do really well, and they fail and they have to tap out because they're like, I don't need to like do anything fancy or make anything, I don't need to like draw pictures or anything like that. I'm just going to be out here collecting food. That's all I need. And they always get bored, always tap out, and they can't handle it psychologically. And there'll be some like woman from like Oregon who's out there, and she's like, she's kind of hungry, but she's also like making, little baskets that she really loves, and she can hang all day long. Like she's out almost the longest, right? Because she's able to like feed her soul while she's doing it. We need that too.
Yeah, that's so great. I love it. All right, so somebody's asking the listening session with ear food. Thank you, Pick and Stone. That's ear food is top level. Someone's asking, are you coming to Copenhagen this summer? We are probably, but I'm here now. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with now? Yeah, we're actually playing tomorrow, somewhere in these parts. Naked and Afraid. That's what Nick says. Adam to that.
It's called Alone, but it's similar, Nick, I think. Oh, Steal Away is the Charlie Hayden, Hank Jones album. Steal Away. Beautiful album.
Yeah.
And then Thomas is saying, are you coming to Copenhagen? Which you're there now, Peter. But I don't know, man. Maybe we should do a little open studio All-Stars tour. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, we're going to do it. And I mean, I hadn't even talked to you about this yet, Adam, but this is a good forum just to let everybody know that is going to happen. Either you'll hear a tour or an open studio tour, with our great artists. But, just being able to meet folks in the last few days. And I can't wait to see what the next couple of weeks has in store, just to meet folks. We want to connect. We will connect. So, yeah. We'd love to do that. Maybe do some workshops. We could do some workshops. We know how to teach this stuff.
We can do some live events and podcast recordings. We can do some concerts. We can do it all, man.
All right, I'm gonna throw one up there. Is that cool? I'm calling it audible, guys. Best Keith solo. Keith Richards. Is that what the question is? You think? Keith Richards guitar solo. Heyoki from New. Is that how you say that? I love that solo. That's Have you heard that, Adam?
No, I've heard
New High. Okay,
I don't recall it.
So that's what's the trumpet player's name who did New High? That's I'm spacing on his name. I'll remember in a second. Somebody put that in the chat. That is a great record that a lot of people don't, because that's one of those rare Keith, huh?
Kenny Wheeler,
of course. Kenny Wheeler. How did I forget that? That's a great solo. I would say for me, best Keith solo, Never Let Me Go, Standards Volume 2. But can I put a couple other ones in too? Everything on Facing You. To me, Facing You is one solo. Is one solo. Yeah,
the greatest. Yeah.
So I would say one of those.
I got it on vinyl back there, man. It sounds so great. I would play a little bit now, but they would. I think ECM would cancel.
Oh my God, you would be. Manfred Eicher would come to your house in Webster and bludgeon you with a bayonet.
I'm going to put out there's an album called Bye Bye Blackbird, which is like a Keith Jarrett trio tribute to Miles Davis. His solo, actually his whole performance on Autumn Leaves of all tunes is so killing and wonderful that you should go listen to it tonight. It's really, really good.
Yeah. Brian Field is saying, blame it on my youth. Yeah, so there's at least... Brian. Yeah, I'm trying to think which... Yeah, I mean, I can totally picture that one. I can't remember what record that's from, but that's his playing on that is unbelievable. Kenny Wheeler, yeah. Come to London. I'm going to be in London on the 21st at the... So you can actually go... I think we have it back up and running. I don't know if you knew this, Adam. Peter Martin Music got hacked. Did you hear about this? It was all the rage in the world of the internets.
You really made it when you got hacked.
Yeah, exactly. I got hacked but it was by like a Chinese children's clothing company. It was very weird. But we're up and running, and so you can go to Peter Martin Music and see the dates. But we're playing with kind of a stripped down trio with Christian McBride on, I think it's the 21st at Wigmore Hall in London, which will be fun.
That's awesome.
So I will be there. Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
What else we got? Whisper Not. That's what. Yeah.
We kind of hit this one, Caleb. This performance with the nerves. We talked about that a little bit. Any other big ones?
Yeah, Dave is asking about Paris. We're playing. It shows on the schedules in another city, but it's like a suburb of Paris in a couple days, I think, or later this week sometime. So I will be there. I'm gonna end things with a question of the day. How about that? This is gonna be a new feature. You know how I love the features, Adam. We're gonna do a new feature. So this is gonna be a question of the day. QOTD. This is for everybody in the chat, and we'll look at this as we fade off. But it's gonna be for you as well, Adam.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
And I'll even throw out my answer first if that's helpful. And that's not even to tip the boat or no. It's a personal preference thing. It's not to sway the needle in any certain direction. Wigmore, the 21st. Someone's asking about Wigmore, March 21st. You're not okay. You got to listen to this closely. Your favorite jazz city.
My favorite jazz city.
Yes. I'm going to say it again. Let me, just so it sinks in. Favorite jazz city.
Okay. I mean.
Yeah. Oh, Lance already jumping in. Liverpool. Wasn't expecting that.
I mean, the obvious answer is New York City, right? I've had some.
Is that the obvious for your favorite jazz city?
It is. Yeah. I think it is the greatest city in the world for music in general, but also, of course, jazz. But see, Nick is saying New York City hands down. Nick, I've had some nights in New Orleans. I think that rival nights I've had in New York City as far as like the power of music. We were talking about music to feed the soul. You know, New York City there's some heavy shit going on all the time. New Orleans, there's like the reason we breathe music is New Orleans. So it's a toss up for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
They in St. Louis. It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw out Paris. Maybe that's just on my mind because we were talking about that. But I've had some, transcendental experiences there with the music. So, but then you talked about New Orleans, and that took me back to, and that's the great thing about this music is like there's that intersection of in the moment, at the gig, in the place, with that combination of people in the audience and on stage, that community, that whole thing that can never be replicated. It can be done again, a different version, which is what's so great about it. Each experience is different. But I do think that this, the intentionality of it being at a certain place, at a certain time, in a certain city is what makes it so beautiful. So Baltimore, a lot of great stuff is going down in Baltimore. A lot of great stuff.
Austin is also legit. Paris, of course. But the thing is, I was thinking about that New York City, New Orleans dichotomy is there's definitely the heaviest music in New York at any given moment, like some unbelievable thing. But every great gig I've seen in New Orleans, I feel like the rooms are packed with people who aren't musicians. And it's the exact opposite in New York. I feel like every gig I go to in New York is just packed with musicians mostly.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but to be somewhere where it's just the music is the smell of the city, or like they're just that combined. I love it so much.
Well, Kansas and the City, reason for sure. And I didn't say what's the best jazz city because that's more of a debate. It's like this is your favorite. Everyone should have a different answer. I mean, it doesn't need to all. There is no right answer. It's like your city that you and I love. Somebody said, like Joe Henderson in the Vatican City. It's like those moments that always will connect you with a certain place. Chip said, my wife and I went to New York City and saw Whitney at Disney Club. Best night ever. I mean, how do you get better than the best night? You can't get better than the best. It's the best until something else happens that. So I think that's the cool thing, and that's what I'm excited about with getting back to.
Oh, sorry, man. No, I was saying a couple weeks ago when Benny Green and Chris McBride and Gregory Hutchinson were in St. Louis. I think St. Louis was the best jazz city.
Exactly. No, I would have to agree. Yeah. So it's not about like the best musicians from there, the best venue. It's where did you connect great. So I appreciate all you guys answer. Baltimore, NYC, Boston. Don't put a question mark behind Boston. I know I've had some great times in Boston. The audiences are great there. Copenhagen, but Montmartre for sure. And the old jazz house, man. I still miss the jazz house.
Montclair getting a shout.
Now I don't know about Montclair though. I mean, come on now. We got a couple Montclair people on here. So, Dexter lived in Copenhagen for a long time, I believe. There's a great picture of Dexter on a bicycle riding around like everybody does here. Stan Getz too. I didn't know that. Did you know about that?
No.
Where is it?
There's a ton of Danes up in here, man.
Yeah. Lucas is. I'll try to get some tickets for Backnang. Yeah, so I think that's our only German day. Maybe love to meet. Yeah, I'd love to meet up with you too again, man. Lucas, I hope to see you there, man. That'd be awesome. Amsterdam. Okay, that's. I've had some great. I remember playing with Roy Hargrove there and being like, man, it doesn't get any better than this. But that's part of the reason I said Paris too, because I mean, I did a gig with Roy Hargrove at the New Morning, Betty Carter, the first time I went to Paris. You know, so it's like I was connected with that, but it's not just about playing. It was like the audience, just the city, you know, the whole thing, man. Wow.
Cool.
Man, we got like at least 3 people from Montclair. Okay, Montclair went up the list way faster than I thought it would. Good stuff.
Frankie Bebop here. He's in Denmark currently.
Man, we got a lot of Denmark folks, including myself tonight. Yeah, we're playing tomorrow in I don't even know. Just go to Peter Martin Music or ChristianMcBride.com. We're playing. It's like 20 minutes. It's like a suburb of it's basically Copenhagen. Yeah. Tomorrow.
Cool.
If you vamp for a second, I can tell everybody the exact. I didn't know we were gonna have like multiple people from Denmark on the stream today. Oh, look at that vamp. Oh, I love Danish language. Okay, we're playing at the Kulturhuset Vitten in Rodovre tomorrow night. Kulturhuset Vitten. You know about the Kulturhuset, right, Adam?
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Thomas, he said it there. Rodovre with the little O on the thing. Even more accurately there. All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody for being here. And we love you guys, and we hope everybody's doing well. And hey, we didn't say anything yet, but our thoughts and prayers are with the Ukrainian people. We actually have several members of Open Studio, but all musicians and everybody there. You know, we've been connecting with some of them there, and they're going through it. And I know everybody's sending their love and prayers and support. So we want to lift them up, you know, in our thoughts and everything, and see what else we can do for them. But they're very much on our minds. And if any of you guys are on here, just know that you are very much on the world's minds. I think, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Man, so many great musicians from the Ukraine. Gee.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And music lovers. Like, you know, you got a great country when people love music and they sing and they, you know, that's what's happening.
Well, thank you, Peter,
all right,
for spending your evening with us here. Go get some sleep or go out. I don't know what you guys do out there.
No, I'm gonna get some sleep. Yep. You too, Adam. It's good to see you, and we'll see about being here next week. Please look out. If we can do this, we'll be here next week at our usual bat time and bat plays, 4 p.m. Eastern on Mondays.
Shout out to our producer. Should we bring Caleb on one more time here? This is our new producer, Caleb, by the way.
What's up, Caleb?
How's it going, everybody?
Fantastic drummer in his own right, and he's been helping us out the last couple weeks. So just want to give you a shout out, man.
That's right.
Cool.
All right.
Later.
Take it easy.
Later, everybody. Peace and love. Peace and piano.
See ya.
Happy practice.